All right, welcome back to our PMP EVM Mastery Series. Today, we are going deep. We're moving past the formulas and the basic calculations to talk about interpretation. What do these numbers actually mean? This is the stuff that's absolutely critical for real project leadership, and you better believe it's all over the PMP exam.
So, you've crunched the numbers, you've got your data, but what's it really telling you? In this explainer, we're diving deep, going way beyond the formulas to unlock the actual stories hidden inside your project data. We're going to learn how to blend all the metrics together to see the full picture and, honestly, turn that raw data into some seriously powerful strategic insights. All right, here's what we're going to tackle today. First, we're going to talk about making that mental shift from just looking at data to actually finding real insight. Then we'll get into the fun stuff, decoding those classic project scenarios you're definitely going to run into. After that, we'll level up to strategic oversight, and we'll wrap it all up by showing you how to master these skills for your PMP exam and, your actual career. Okay, first up, Section 1, From Data to Insight. This is all about the art of taking those numbers you worked so hard to calculate and turning them into real stories. Stories that actually help you make smart decisions for your project. You know, all those variances and indices, your schedule variance, your cost variance, and of course, SPI and CPI, think of them as just raw ingredients. They're the starting point for sure, but the real magic, the secret sauce, happens in the interpretation. It's when you take that jumble of numbers and weave it into a clear, actionable story. And I'm telling you, this skill, this is what separates a good project manager from a truly great one. So let's get our hands dirty and put this into practice. Welcome to Section 2, Decoding Scenarios. We're about to break down those classic narratives, the ones your project data is going to be telling you over and over again. Here's the thing, and this is absolutely crucial. You can't just look at one metric by itself. It's like trying to understand a movie by only watching one scene. You have to look at the four core metrics together. You've got your schedule variance and SPI telling you about your schedule health, and you've got your cost variance and CPI talking about your cost health. It's only when you combine these two perspectives that the real, honest story of your project actually comes into focus.
So, let's analyze a classic. You look at your dashboard and you're behind schedule. But hey, you're somehow under budget. So what gives? This is where you have to put on your detective hat. Are you using cheaper resources that just happen to be slower? Is that a deliberate choice, or is it a risk you didn't see coming? Or, and this is a sneaky one, did your team just burn through all the easy, low-cost work first, which kind of gives you a false sense of security before the really tough, expensive stuff hits?
Okay, now let's flip that. You're ahead of schedule, which feels great, but you're just torching your budget. This is often a sign of what I call brute force. Are you paying a ton of money for overtime just to hit an early milestone? Are you gold-plating the project, adding all these cool bells and whistles that were never actually in the plan? You've got to know why you're over budget, because flying down the runway is awesome, but not if you run out of fuel before you take off. And then there's this one, the project manager's worst nightmare. You're behind schedule and you're over budget. When both your schedule and your cost lights are flashing red, there's no silver lining, there's no but. This is a 5-alarm fire. It screams that there's a fundamental problem with your plan, or your execution, or maybe both. And it needs immediate, strong, decisive action. Yesterday.
So, how do you see all this at a glance? Well, check this out. This is a super powerful visual tool, the Executive Diagnostic Overview. I want you to think of this as the command center for your project's health. Along the bottom, the horizontal axis, you've got your schedule health, from behind to ahead. And on the side, the vertical axis, that's your cost health. By just plotting a single dot for your project, you can instantly see where you stand. And, just as important, you can communicate that status to your stakeholders in about 5 seconds flat. That top right quadrant, yeah, that's the dream. That's where we always want to be. Okay, this brings us perfectly into Section 3, Strategic Project Oversight. Because look, understanding the what is one thing, but as a leader, you've got to focus on the so what. This is where we move from just reading the numbers to actually using them wisely to steer the ship. This slide, right here, illustrates one of the most critical rules of EVM. Never judge your project's health based on a single data point. It's so tempting, but it's dangerous. That single dot on the left, it's just noise. It doesn't mean anything without context. But now, look at the trend line on the right. That is where the wisdom is. Is your performance getting better or worse over time? Are your problems growing or are you fixing them? The trajectory tells a far richer, more honest story than any single snapshot ever could. And because you can see these trends, you can use a really powerful leadership technique called management by exception. It's simple, really. You use your EVM data to focus your precious time and energy only where it's needed most. If an area of your project is in the green, it's humming along, leave it alone. Minimal intervention needed. If it's yellow, okay, it's a warning sign. You need to keep a close eye on it. But if it's red, it's critical. And that's where you drop everything and focus your immediate attention. This is how you run a huge, complex project without getting totally lost in the weeds.
All right, let's bring it all home in our final section, Section 4, Mastering for the Exam and Your Career. This is where we tie everything together and really focus on how these interpretation skills are your key to success, both for crushing the PMP and for being an amazing project leader. Now listen up, because this is a huge tip for the PMP exam. You'll notice the questions are rarely just calculate this. No way. They're situational. They'll give you the numbers and then ask, okay, so what should the project manager do next? They're testing your ability to interpret the story behind the metrics and figure out what the best course of action is. So when you see those questions, always ask yourself two things. 1, what's the story here? And 2, what's the most likely root cause?
Look, if you only take one single thing away from our time together today, please let it be this. Numbers alone are meaningless. They're just data points. It is your interpretation, your ability to ask why, and to connect the dots that transforms that data into an incredibly powerful tool for making decisions. Master this skill, and I promise you, you will stand out from the crowd on your exam and in your career.
And that's a wrap on our deep dive into interpretation. But don't just watch this, practice it. Take a minute and try to tackle these questions you see on the screen. See if you can tell the story behind the numbers. In our next explainer, we're going to build right on top of this foundation as we get into the world of forecasting with EAC and ETC mastery. We'll see you there.
PMP EVM Mastery 2026 Deep Interpretation.
Welcome to PMP EVM Mastery 2026. This is Episode 5, Deep Interpretation, What the Numbers Really Mean. In this episode, we move beyond simple calculations. Variances and indices like SV and CPI provide raw data points. They indicate current position, but they do not provide the context of how the project arrived there. To bridge that gap, you must apply deep interpretation. This is the analytical process of identifying the specific performance stories behind the data. Relying strictly on the math offers a limited view of project health. Developing the skill to interpret how these numbers interact is what enables a project manager to move from passive reporting to active oversight. Accurate interpretation requires you to evaluate schedule and cost health simultaneously, looking for the ways one metric influences the other. We can visualize this using a diagnostic matrix. Along the vertical axis, we plot our schedule metrics, schedule variance, and the schedule performance index. We then intersect this with the horizontal axis, representing our cost health through cost variance and the cost performance index. This intersection creates a grid representing 4 possible project states. It is within these 4 quadrants that the actual root causes of project performance become visible. Consider the first major contradiction, a project that is trending behind schedule but remains under budget. This occurs when schedule variance is negative and SPI is below 1. While cost variance and CPI stay in positive territory. Often, this points to resource selection. The team may use lower cost resources that preserve budget but work at a slower pace. It can also indicate front-loading, where easy, inexpensive tasks are completed early, while complex work remains untouched. Another possibility is unrecorded scope. New requirements might be delaying the timeline before the associated costs have been processed through the accounting system. This quadrant requires skepticism. If the delay is caused by low productivity or deferred complexity, those cost savings will likely be consumed by the high expense of future schedule recovery efforts. The inverse scenario shows a project trending ahead of schedule, but currently over budget. In this state, schedule variance is positive and SPI is above 1, but cost variance is negative and CPI drops below the 1.0 threshold. This usually indicates progress through high expenditure. The project may be relying on expensive overtime or premium resources to force a faster pace. It can also signal gold plating, adding extra, unapproved features that increase costs despite the fast delivery rate. While stakeholders might appreciate early delivery, the aggressive burn rate often makes the state unsustainable across the entire project lifecycle.
The bottom left quadrant represents the most dangerous state, a project that is both behind schedule and over budget. Every metric is negative. Both variances are below 0, and both indices track below 1.0. The project is consuming capital at an accelerated rate, burning through the budget rapidly, without generating any corresponding forward momentum to show for it. This scenario demands immediate intervention. Without aggressive corrective action, the project faces a high probability of total failure. Evaluating a project based on a single reporting period is risky because it only captures a momentary state. This is where trend analysis becomes essential. You must track how indices evolve across multiple reporting cycles to understand the project's true direction. You are looking for the trajectory. Are the SPI and CPI values improving or worsening as the project moves forward? You should also observe the variances. Are the gaps between planned and actual performance expanding, or are they beginning to shrink? A project's historical momentum often provides a much more accurate forecast of its future than any individual snapshot. These trends enable management by exception, a strategy that uses data to determine where leadership should focus its attention. Green zones represent healthy performance trends. These require minimal oversight, allowing you to delegate with confidence. Yellow zones indicate a negative shift in trajectory, requiring closer monitoring. Red zones indicate critical failures, demanding immediate, high-level intervention to reset the project. This framework ensures that your energy as a manager is spent only where the data mathematically proves it is needed. On the PMP exam, EVM testing has shifted from simple calculation toward this type of situational analysis. You will likely face questions that provide contradictory metrics and ask for the most appropriate next step for the project manager. Success depends on your ability to identify the root cause of the variance and select a recovery option that is operationally realistic. Consider these questions. 1. What does a negative SV and positive CV indicate? 2. Why is trend analysis more vital than a single data point? Numbers by themselves are inert. Deep interpretation provides the specific operational context needed to make informed and defensible project decisions.